Welcome, apprentices and acolytes, to Unlock the Knowledge. It's been a crazy week, but I just want to talk about Star Wars Galactic Cruiser and how we could potentially save it. Ready up.
Ready up, my destiny.
Welcome, apprentices and acolytes. I am Lord Dagovere, and this is Unlock the Knowledge, the podcast heard all around the galaxy. And today, we're gonna have a lot of fun because you're coming into the Dark Temple. Visited by Mara Jade, Luke Skywalker, and Kyle Katarn, and so many of the Force sensitives like yourself. Let's get to it, fam. Star Wars Galactic Cruiser is going to be closing. Its last day is September 28th, and I think those dates are already sold out for the registration, and that's pretty crazy. And I think that says a lot about whether or not fans thought about the idea that it was always going to be there, and now they're taking their chances. Maybe it was people that have already gone to the attraction, have already enjoyed it, because I've been watching a lot of videos recently, not only my old video where I first reacted to it, and, you know, I am usually considered a shill or a Star Wars positive creator, and even I was taken back by the price. I thought the price was just too, it cut off so many fans, it cut off so many people that just can't, you know, it's not possible to have that accessibility for people in this economy and things like that. I just didn't understand that. I was really upset and butthurt about it because there was no way in hell I could afford that, you know? And I think a lot of people that did get to go, they were either given it for free because, you know, they are influencers and they're able to do what they want because that's just the society we live in these days. Or, you know, they were very hardworking individuals that saved every single penny and went there. And, yeah, you know, it is what it is at the end of the day. I'm not there. I don't think I'm ever going to go. I'm really bummed about it because I still wanted to go and experience it because it is Star Wars and I like experiencing all Star Wars things. And also the shop looked really cool. It had some really awesome stuff, and there's some journals. I love journals. I love writing down notes and things like that for my work. I like in-universe journals as well. Batu has a really fantastic set of journals that come out every once in a while, every season. My favorite is the First Order one that actually is, it's literally called the First Order in Arabesh, and it's pretty cool. It has like Kylo Ren stuff. It's really, really sick looking. Very First Order themed, very Imperial themed. I love that damn journal. It's one of my favorite. So yeah, I like little things like that because I'm always buying Star Wars crap. But most importantly, I want to talk about the scrapped ideas, or at the very least, some of these concepts that we've seen in the Batu, the Galaxy's Edge Star Wars book for the art of Batu. And you have to understand, too, a lot of these concepts, I see a lot of people going around and saying, oh, scratched ideas or scrapped ideas for the design of Batu, and I don't necessarily think that's true. They're ideas. You know, a lot of the stuff is just art. They tell the person that, hey, here's an idea, and, you know, just go with what you think, and whatever it is, we'll see what's right. And finally, they hit on it, right? And that's what we see is the main art. This is the main art that I'm going to be talking about in the book, and it has the Millennium Falcon, and then Batu is over, so you see the spires. And I think this was actually the first preview that we got of Batu before the park even opened. And the one thing I'm going to be talking about today is the transitions, is what can we do to not only continue to build off Batu, but that can enhance and potentially repurpose Star Cruiser, the Galactic Starcruiser assets that they have there. Because it's a pretty big building, alright? If anyone that lives in Orlando like myself, when you go to Hollywood Studios is the park that has Batu in it. When you go there and you exit the park, there is going to be a quick exit to get back onto the interstate and then get into the main road of Disney that connects to Disney Springs and all the other Star Wars attractions and resorts. Now, before you get on that exit, or as you get onto that roadway, there's going to be an exit for cast parking. In that same parking lot is actually the attraction for Star Wars Galactic Cruiser. And the reason why this is important is because that's how much room they have. The park itself at Hollywood Springs, at Hollywood Studios, is connected to this interstate. They cannot really expand any more so unless they destroy that entire building that is Star Wars Galactic Cruiser is in, and the cast parking. There is no other parking for those cast members unless they decide to take away from the actual park itself, which is the main parking where all the customers go and the guests, or they use the preferred parking. I don't really think that there's a way for them to expand or remove or relocate any of the parking. So that whole area is essentially it's on lock. They can't do anything about that. And you can literally see the park and the construction when you're going on the freeway and the interstate. It's literally right there, which I always felt was the first mistake of creating Galaxy's Edge, was that it wasn't a park itself. It was just a little extension of Star Wars. And for anyone that's ever gone to Batuu, no matter what anyone is saying about these critics about, oh, well, it's not successful. No, it is successful. It's one of the busiest parts of the park. I mean, everyone that goes to Hollywood Studios is usually going there for Batuu, or they're going there for Toy Story. And those two attractions, those two sides of that park are connected. So it's always busy. There is a lot of traffic there. Now, backing up to the art itself, there is an Imperial transport shuttle. This you always see this, okay? The Emperor is on it, Director Krennic is on it, Darth Vader is on it. There are Imperial-esque TIE fighters, okay? And that's the one thing that I felt like Batuu should have been doing before, and they've gotten better at this right now, is that it's breaking the lore that they initially installed at the event, at the attraction. And what originally was that it was supposed to be in the sequel trilogy, and it was just going to be Rey and Kylo Ren and the First Order and the Resistance. It's no longer that anymore. They have brought in Boba Fett, they have brought in the Mandalorian, and as we know, Boba Fett and the Mandalorian are not in the sequel trilogy, so that time is also around the Mandoverse and of course the pre-Empire state in the New Republic. And that's what I love so much, is because I feel like they can continue to utilize that park, because Batuu should be timeless. And what I mean by timeless is that it itself, the location of Batuu in the current Disney canon, is fantastic. Darth Vader has been there, Anakin Skywalker has been there, and of course Grand Admiral Thrawn, which is not only in the Timothy Zahn book that they have in the trilogy, it's also in the official Traveler's Guide to Batuu. This book is a separate book. It's about $20. It's actually fascinating. It goes through so many things. It talks about what droids have been there, what the landing part. It dissects and goes into detail about every single part of the Batuu of Galaxy's Edge. And this, it takes apart a lot of the. Gives you a little preview of the Star Wars cruiser. It gives you all these little lore details that I love, like idiots like me that love all the Star Wars stuff, about what the spires are, what are they selling there, what are the little symbols everywhere, the communities that are there, the gangsters like Oga, all this little stuff, like even where like the travel, and so like the Hydian Way, right, which of course is the hyperspace lanes and things like that. It also talks to you about how to get to Batuu from Takodana to Retatak and Batuu and all these other, and Bakura and Endor, and how close they are. And that of course is a preview of like where the Galactic Starcruiser is going, which I think should feed more into the lore of Batuu, because that's why it's so important. It's telling you why Batuu itself is one of the most important parts of Star Wars, because it is in wild space. It's in the Outer Rim. This is a part of the journey. This is a part of Star Wars galaxy that is not as explored and colonized as the rest of the Star Wars galaxy. So, things like Starkiller Base, Exegol, Octu, these are all planets that are around this area, but don't really have, they can't really place them on a map because not many people have been there. And of course, if a character like the Mandalorian and Boba Fett and Grand Admiral Thrawn and Darth Vader have been there, then it's probably in itself a pretty hard planet to find, because of these characters are some of the most important characters in Star Wars. So let's get more specific, okay? As we saw, Star Wars Galactic Cruiser is closing. And now what are they going to do? What are they going to do with the bridge that is there, the hotel lobby that is there, the giant restaurant that is there? And they have some I heard like it was like 100 to like 500 rooms. I don't know exactly how much it is, but there are so many pillows, so many resources, so many forks and knives and things like that. Okay, and for anyone that's ever worked at a restaurant, these things are very expensive. And I think this is where Disney actually does really well, is the experience with food and drink, with food in restaurants and things like that. There's actually one hotel that they have that does a dinner with the cast or breakfast with the cast. I think you like meet Mickey, Chip and Dale, and things like that. Now, I think that is kind of the best idea that you have going on for these these assets that you need to repurpose. And I think that you could repurpose the Galactic Starcruiser into a giant restaurant and themed theater. And what I mean by theater is I think that the cantina theme, the cantina scene in the original Star Wars is probably one of the best scenes. And I think it's the ultimate scene that everyone ever always talks about when you talk to them that have seen Star Wars originally in theaters, is that the character themes, right? The cantina on Tatooine was by far, Mos Eisley Cantina was the most important thing, because you saw all these characters, all these individuals, all these animatronics and people that inside these suits that look like aliens, the bartender and stuff. It was a real life alien bar that came to life. And that's what was so magic about Star Wars. And I think that you could replicate this, what you have in Batuu, into something like that. Because now not only are you taking them into one of the greatest scenes of all for Star Wars, you're making it own. You're making it its own thing for Disney. And I know there's a lot of people out there that are like, oh, well, what about Tatooine? Why doesn't it represent every single era of Star Wars? This is where Batuu has the advantage, because it can become timeless. So when you're looking at this art book, like I said, currently the TIE Echelon, this is the area where the First Order reigns, okay? This is the area where the faction is, the First Order store is, Kylo Ren usually is, the Stormtroopers are there. I think you could start messing around a little bit here. I love the TIE Echelon. I think the TIE Echelon is one of the greatest original ships that they made specifically for this. But the thing is, the TIE Echelon isn't used in anything outside of the comic books. It's not in a movie, it's not in a video game, it's only in the comic books. So if you put Darth Vader in the TIE Echelon, if you put Inquisitors in the TIE Echelon, you see where I'm going at? If you put Anakin Skywalker in an Echelon, that's probably impossible because the time doesn't work. But strictly for the Empire, have old school stormtroopers come out of there, okay? Have Inquisitors come out of there. Have Purge troopers come out of there, okay? And they're all going into this restaurant, this area where Star Wars Galactic Cruiser used to be, but they're entering into that area that is a live action, live interactive area for a show/restaurant experience. And I think Disney does that well because they have so many versions of these live experience where the characters come to you while you're eating or while you're in the gift shop. It's like an ongoing show. And I think that they can do more of that. Now, that's going to be insane for like the cast. I'm not anyone that knows about how the logistics is and the bandwidth and accounting and how marketing and in the Florida hot sun, how are they going to keep these people nice and cool and wanting to do this for a long time? I don't know. I'm just here to talk about Star Wars and how we could potentially put this negative into a positive. And I think the idea of bringing, let's say, Boba Fett comes out of there. Maybe somehow you could change the ship. Maybe change it to an Imperial shuttle. Very similar to like what Krennic had. The Krennic ship is very similar looking to Kylo Ren. So you can also use that Imperial era and that First Order era for anyone that loves either of these. And I think that's the most important thing, is that let's say you're sitting there and then Darth Vader comes in. Darth Vader comes in and his troopers come in. And everybody else that decides to come in. Maybe Dr. Aphra comes in while you're eating and you're having a show. And while what's going on too in this realm, in this live event area that's probably going to be booked like crazy, is you still have Gaia, okay? And Gaia is the Twi'lek that you saw in the trailer. Now, I personally think Gaia is a very important part of not only the Star Wars Galactic Cruiser, but this idea of Batuu as well. Because when you go over to all of these concept arts, there is a giant show. There are characters that they have created that were supposed to be an idea, at least incorporated to some extent. They have characters, K-Ak, Sherpa Boy, Animal Whisperer. All these characters look so interesting. They have Shadow, who looks like a bounty hunter. They literally have another bounty hunter called Bounty Hunter V01, version 01. They have Shark Goggles. There's a lot of these characters that I think could play into the era and to the area of the Star Wars that is living in the timelessness. And so while you're eating, while you're enjoying these shows, maybe Gaia isn't giving a concert every single time, every single showing like they would at, say, like the Indiana Jones stuff, or Hoop-Dee-Doo Review back in Fort Wilderness, or wherever there is a show in Disney. Maybe there are other characters doing things. Maybe characters are on stage. Maybe there's a Jawa that comes in and tries to steal your food or tries to barter with you. Maybe Darth Vader comes in because he's looking for Chewbacca. Chewbacca's always around Batu, and is maybe maybe Chewbacca is hiding at your table while you're eating, and Darth Vader's coming around checking to see who is. You got the stormtroopers trying to check to see what's going on. Depending on what shirt or what hat or merchandise you have, like they do inside the park, you're either a sympathizer or you're potentially a rebel. Maybe they take you away if you're holding one of those birthday buttons and they put you in a cell like they did in the Star Wars Galactic Cruiser. I just like the idea of a living space. And what I mean by living space is like the galaxy itself is still alive because you have these cast members that are here. Maybe it's not a human person that is your waitress or hostess. Maybe it is a Twi'lek. Maybe it is a Zabrak. Maybe it is a human. Maybe it is a Pandoran. Maybe it is a Batuan, someone that is there. I think Oga showing up. Oga, of course, is the owner of the cantina, and if you did read any of the Batu books, Oga is essentially the ringleader there. She is the leader of Batu itself until Vimerati and the Resistance bring over the First Order, and then she's really pissed off about that, and she's not really happy because now First Order's there. But I think Oga showing up to see what's going on, because the cantina itself, that is also in Batu, plays a huge part, because Vader, Anakin Skywalker, and Thrawn also visited this place in the Timothy Zahn book. So that place has been there. There could be shrapnel, or maybe Thrawn and Anakin Skywalker left something and it's hanging up inside this hotel, which I think Batu does a fantastic job of. There are so many tributes and Easter eggs inside Doc Ondor's Antiquities, I think, his store, and he's got so many things up there from all versions, all eras of Star Wars, which I think that restaurant, that era, should also do. Bring in the Wampas, bring in the Jawas, bring in the droids, put a B droid up there, a super droid up there, maybe, I don't know, I think that'd be kind of impossible for an actual super droid walking around and being your waiter and bringing you food. But I also love the idea of actual drones. And when you go around and you have this book and you look, you see the concept art of these floating droids, very similar to like a probe droid, right? You have these floating droids also floating around with the Imperials and everything else. I think that there is so much that you can do with these characters to really bring it in, and I think Disney can do it. Maybe the droids can't float itself, but maybe they're attached to the ceiling in some way, where they're able to retract and descend and ascend and move throughout the hotel in its own fashion, in its own way, uninhibited by characters or tourists or people that might get in the way. They're so high above. Maybe they're floating. Maybe there is a probe droid that comes around because Darth Vader needs them to go check and scan people. Maybe there is a seeker droid out there. I think that would be really cool. I'm just thinking of in terms of like mechanics and how hard it would be to keep something like that levitated for some time. I think that would be so freaking awesome. But also the center of the restaurant, I think, could have a giant sarlacc in the middle of it. If you look through some of the concept art, I think it's like page 113 or something, page 120, where there's actually the cantina is there, which is very similar to what you see in the restaurant. I think it's basically a giant. It's a giant sarlacc. It's a miniature sarlacc, I guess you could say, because it can't fit a giant sarlacc inside the restaurant. But you have the bartender, and the bartender is there, and inside of it is this giant fish tank. But it's not. It's a tank just holding sand, and the actual sarlacc is coming out of the sand, and it's moving around. And it is live. And I think that could be very easy to do in terms of animatronics because they've done similar things. There's a lot of really cool stuff that can be implemented into this era. And I think it's already so cool because you have this living space, like I said, where it's constantly going around. The Ronto roast, right? Where you go and get those by the cantina, and they have the equipment concepts which show you what is actually cooking the Ronto wraps, what's actually roasting the Rontos, right? And it's, of course, it's a giant pod racer engine that they're using to flame and heat this stuff. Like, that is such an incredible part of this. And I think that if you have the character, there's actually a character that they have that creates all the food, I think, in Batu, and I can't remember. I think he's a Gabdoran. He's one of the aliens, and if you have him just like walk around with like a cleaver or something, maybe he's sitting there, maybe he's putting on a show with all of his like little ingredients and stuff that are flowing and hanging from the ceiling. I don't know, you could put like a nerve herder up there, like a head of a nerve herder or something, just really crazy. I think that would really represent and personify a lot of the right eras of Star Wars that have been missing, I would say, in Batu, because I love Batu. I think Batu is amazing, but I think the worst thing about the Galactic Starcruiser is the price, and I think that's hard enough for people to already take advantage of during that time. But you repurpose these assets, you repurpose this into something more, and I'm gonna have a video come out that's gonna be more defined and it's gonna be scripted, where I'm not just gonna be rambling about stuff. But I like this idea of taking this hotel and repurposing it into a restaurant. Maybe Mando comes in there with Grogu. Maybe he has a table. Maybe you close off an entire era of the restaurant, or maybe not just one certain era, but like maybe there's certain booths or tables that are literally reserved and designated for casts and characters. So yeah, maybe Boba Fett comes in with like Bosk, you know, and Chrysanthemum, and they're all sitting down just to get like a quick thing to eat. It's not something you would see in Star Wars. It's not something you would absolutely, you know, see, but we've seen it in, like, you know, Dr. Aphra, where they're all talking, you know, maybe they're not eating, maybe they're waiting for someone like a contact, maybe like Han Solo, maybe like Dr. Aphra, maybe like Vi Marati. You know, there's ways that these characters can interact with each other, you know, and coexist and have a good time, and I think that would be so fun to interact and see that level of design and just the elements of Star Wars that we could never really get. Yeah, maybe stormtroopers are going around, you know, not First Order stormtroopers, but also Imperial stormtroopers are going around like they did in A New Hope, and they're checking every single booth. You know, because maybe the cast members say, hey, you know, someone is talking a little bit too louder. You know, hey, we heard some blaster shots. And so yeah, maybe the blaster shots are inside the speaker system, the sound system, and then you hear that. Like, there is like some crazy thing that happens as if it was A New Hope, and Obi-Wan Kenobi chops someone's arm off, but they have a similar audio that's just original to that restaurant. And then now the stormtroopers are coming out and they're going around checking to make sure nothing happens. Of course, the inverse laws, I'm not sure how could really allow that to live. You know, why were Imperial stormtroopers there in Batu in the first place? You know, maybe they're with Vader's personal guard, just like they were with in Thrawn Alliances, where he did ally with Thrawn, and they went back to Batu and then went back to that sector of the galaxy because it's telling the two stories at the same time. Maybe it's Death Troopers. You know, I think that idea to bring in these scenarios and have like an open experience with these cast members, because these cast members are so important to the experience. They have done so much for Batu and Star Wars Galactic Cruiser. I think they've put so much time and effort into creating these characters, and I think that's ultimately how these things should get repurposed, because they're ideas of them, what they've put into it. Like Gaia and her stuff, she should be one of the main attractions at this as well. Maybe she is singing. Maybe you bring Max Rebo Band over there, you know, as like Max Rebo Band is like, hey, Max Rebo Band is here for the entire week, get them before they don't show up for another 2 months. You know, maybe there's a hut that's going up and that's there, and then maybe the hut is set up for like an entire like week or something. You know, I just think that there's so much fun that you can do, especially when you enter this place, and maybe have the characters, maybe have the people that go there have the same idea like the Starcruiser Galactic ship is like, yeah, maybe they do dress up, maybe they do have fun. this is the only place in the sector, you know? Maybe they have some type of, you know, with their magic bands and stuff. Maybe there's something that allows them to do that and to dress up so they can go. And it adds to not only Batu, because you have these people that have coming around from this restaurant, from this experience, and now they're walking around the park as well, and it seems like the park itself is alive with all these live action people and their iterations of their characters. And then they enter this beautiful restaurant, right? They enter this beautiful live attraction that is that restaurant slash theater slash store that's happening, and maybe there's other Mandalorians, there's original characters that are there in time for the park itself, and they enter to be greeted by a hostess, by an alien hostess, you know, by someone that is inside this designed cast member, like I said, like a Twi'lek, like a Pantoran, like someone that is there in the Star Wars verse that's ready to seat you, and you're waiting and you're sitting in the lobby, and maybe Gaia walks in front of you. Maybe, you know, maybe we show up, and then this is exactly when the stormtroopers are happening, and they're coming down and they're storming the restaurant to check and patrol. Maybe Doc Ondor goes in there with his little escort of goons and Oga as well. I think that you shouldn't completely abandoned the Galactic Starcruiser, because while it may be overpriced, I think that it did show a lot of strengths that only Disney is capable of, and I think there is so much more to this experience than just to let it die. But yeah, let me know what you think. Let me know what you hear. I'm going to start writing an actual script for a story, because I want to show you guys these pieces of art, that what we can do to maybe potentially spark some of the Imagineers, because I think the Imagineers are amazing, man. I think Disney gets a lot of bad rep these days, especially for experiences, because people love to see these corporations lose money and die, and I don't think that's the way. You know, we need companies like this, man, because we can't afford this stuff ourselves, and the entertainment aspect is absolutely there. And I don't think Star Wars Galactic Cruiser was a bad idea. I just think it wasn't priced correctly, you know? But hey, I hope you all enjoyed this. Thank you so much for coming in to unlock the knowledge of course, by Lord Dagovere, because you're coming into the Dark Temple, visited by Mara Jade, Luke Skywalker, and Kyle Katarn, and so many other Force sensitives like yourself. Let me know what you think, fam. I would always love to hear you guys, and I'll see you around, all right? Deuces.